I don't know if people caught this. This is just really interesting. So the CBC was caught in a hot mic moment. It was a little oops moment that may have revealed a little bit more of the network. A little bit more of this network that really needs to be scrutinized. That $1.4 billion apparently isn't enough to, propagandize, manufacture consent, cover up the federal government and all their scandals and shenanigans. That now a little bit of some information that got leaked out to the general public is really become controversial. So here is Juno News talking about this. Take a watch.
There was just an unbelievable moment on television yesterday at the CBC. Rosemary Barton, their chief political correspondent, accidentally said the truth. There was a hot mic moment. So she was providing some taxpayer-funded analysis about how, maybe people in Edmonton actually just love the Liberals now. And that's the real reason Matt Genereux switched and crossed the floor, because people in Alberta just love the Liberals now. It was total nonsense.
So they're trying to make the excuse because one of the MPs in Edmonton just crossed parties. He's now went from a conservative guy to a liberal person. And this is supposedly a guy who was going to retire shortly, who now says he's not going to retire after switching parties. So there is an immense amount of scandal and scrutiny to get into that. And we'll get into that at a later point. But they're not trying to make this excuse of, if he's switching parties, obviously that means the rest of the population has gone to Mark Carney's Liberals. That's what it's got to be. Something to do with the fact that maybe this MP in particular is squeezing to the Liberal Party because he knows that, hey, I'm going to join the winning team because I'm going to retire shortly. So if I join the winning team, then I'll get that nice cozy pension that comes with it, right? Just like how Jagmeet Singh of the NDP did not go after Justin Trudeau, did not do that vote of non-confidence, because he also wants to benefit from a high pension that, while majority of Canadians are struggling to survive. So just manufacturing consent for the Carney Liberals that should be highly scrutinized. But of course, CBC isn't going to get into that.
It's just total nonsense. And then it cuts away, and you could hear Rosemary Barton, like they left her mic on accidentally. They went to a press conference with Melanie Joly, but they forgot to switch the audio. So Rosemary Barton thought that she was off the air, but her mic was still on. And what did she say to people around her? Oh, it's all made up anyway. She just admitted that everything she says is BS, and it's just all total nonsense. So gotta have to listen to the very end of this clip. But it's just unbelievable. She says a quiet part out loud. Let's play that clip.
Comes to be elected again. But there's also, the reality that some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the Prime Minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well.
Rosie.
Yeah, Maybe that's the case. Just everyone decided to switch party. It's not the fact that it's one MP, they just want to manufacture. No. Everybody in Edmonton, everyone in that riding just magically switched to another party. I mean, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. It's so absurd that people look at this and think that's acceptable news. Obviously, that's lies. Obviously, that's manufactured consent. But to the average, CBC viewer that thinks that a podcaster like me or any outsider media is so treacherous, they're going to suck it up. They're going to think, oh, yeah. Edmonton is finally getting to line. Edmonton's finally getting their head on straight. Not just the fact that this MP may be, highly regarded, need to be scrutinized, and the fact that, he's switching teams because he was shortly going to retire. Now he's getting back into politics because now he's switching to Liberals. That's not something we should be investigating because, that'd be actual journalism. But here's the hot mic moment.
The CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry Melanie Joly is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
Just because it's all made up anyway.
So after that statement, they go to Melanie Joly, about to do a press conference here, and Rosemary Barton giggles and says, "Oh, it's all made up anyway." After saying that statement. So they just accidentally revealed who they are. They're not journalists. Rosemary Barton is not a chief journalist at the CBC. She's like an actress. She's a talking head. She gets manufactured scripts sent to her that she reads off a teleprompter to propagandize viewers. And that's what she did there. She lied to you. She lied to you that, oh, Edmonton completely flipped to Mark Carney's Liberals after the one MP. Oh, they completely flipped. They're finally kissing up to, oh, they finally realized what a great prime minister this guy is. And then now it's been revealed that's all fake. It's all fake. They're just going to suck it up anyway. Let's hear that again. Hear that again.
Rosemary Barton live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry Melanie Joly is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
Just because it's all made up anyway.
It's all made.
It's all made up anyway. It's all made up anyway. What, you think they pay us $1.4 billion to actually report news to you? It's all made up anyway. Wow. So here's Candace Malcolm's response.
Made up anyway. That just perfectly sums up the CBC. That should be like their tagline on their network. It's all made up anyway. Exactly right. Rosemary Barton, thank you for finally being honest with Canadians.
Wow. They should take the tagline from Whose Line when they say, the points don't matter. The news don't matter. Facts don't matter. Welcome to the CBC. Facts don't matter. The news don't matter. We just say whatever we get told to say. Whoever pays us, we just kiss their ass repeatedly. We don't actually do quality journalism because obviously if we did quality journalism, that would be controversial. People would be, skeptical of the system we're in right now. We can't allow that to happen. So that is a very impressive moment, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not the first time that the CBC was caught red-handed for, making up lies and being caught red-handed in fomenting lies to their audience that finally, bites them back. So you remember this. This is from 2022. CBC admits that they spread disinformation on the Freedom Convoy, retracts false story. So you remember all the clips they showed? They never interviewed anyone, by the way. So that just goes to show you that money doesn't buy you better journalism. It goes to show you one thing, that you could pour an extensive amount in an organization. Doesn't make them better journalists. Because money is not the problem. It's about courage. It's about integrity. It's about actually going out and interacting with people, which the CBC did not. They didn't talk to anybody in the Freedom Convoy discussing why they're there, why they're, against the Trudeau regime, why they're protesting. No, they had to manufacture lies. They manufactured lies. They told people that they were a fringe minority, that maybe Russia was involved in it, that, oh, there's a guy with a swastika flag that was photoshopped. That's crazy. We can't allow that to happen. We can't allow for Canadians to have a say about Canadian politics. So they ran a bunch of false stories. And this is them getting karma back. This is karma biting them back, that the CBC had to admit that they were spreading false narratives, false information, that they are the ones spreading disinformation. And as I said before, the biggest perpetrators of misinformation, not me or you, the biggest perpetrators is the government. They're the number one. Number two is the mainstream media that parrots everything that the government is responding to. And a way distant third is users on social media. But they always want to focus on dissent on Facebook. They want to go after X. They want to go after Rumble. They want to go after podcasters. Because why? We give a difference in opinion. We add to the conversation. They don't want people to converse on this information. They want people to comply. They don't want conversation. They want compliance. So here's all the headlines here of all the times the CBC ran with a fake story and then got caught and then had to apologize. But again, the government isn't going to investigate that. They're not going to say anything about it. They're going to say that it's still loyal. It's something that Canadians need to watch more. They need to watch more CBC. They don't want to watch Kitz Corner. They don't want to watch podcasters. They don't want to hear information from outsider sources. They don't want to listen to Joe Rogan, that, fallacious liar that took ivermectin, an award-winning drug, and cured himself of COVID. They don't want to listen to that. And here's all the times the CBC's lied. So there's a National Post article in the corner there. Error in judgment. CBC Edmonton regrets mannequin's use in COVID-19 news report. So they used a mannequin in a COVID-19 report that was broadcasted on their Edmonton station. They manufactured consent. They lied to you. And then they finally admitted it was a lie. Public outrage over the unvaccinated is driving a crisis in bioethics. Again, that was a lie. That was a lie. They ramped that up when it came to the Freedom Convoy, which they did not tell you that the truckers were already vaccinated. The truckers were already vaccinated. They were the highest vaccinated occupation at the time. What they were sick of was the mandates. What they were sick of is closing down the schools and making your children stay at home, getting hardly an education. They were against that. They were against having these restrictions about seeing family members, going out, socializing. We're social beings, after all. Trudeau says Canadians are angry and frustrated with the unvaccinated. Again, false. They're frustrated with the mismanagement of COVID and how we should have listened to people like Dr. Robert Malone. How we should have listened to Dr. Peter Culla. How we should have listened to Dr. Pierre Corey. But of course, those are U.S. doctors. We can't listen to them. Well, how about listening to Dr. John Campbell of the UK? He had some powerful insights. Oh, no. Trust Theresa Tam. The one that told us in 2010 that there's going to be a time when we're going to have to manufacture this scenario and we're going to have to see if Canadians comply. Trust her, right? Here's another one. Prime Minister health officials warn Canadians against believing COVID-19 internment camps is disinformation. Really? Because we all saw what was happening in Australia. We all saw what people like Noam Chomsky were talking about, the unvaccinated, how they need to be set aside from rest of society. We need to exert them away from polite society. And if they, want food or water, that's their problem. That's Noam Chomsky saying that. CBC issues clarification over claim Kremlin behind trucker protests. Oh, a clarification. Not a complete apology, not I'm sorry that I went after an essential occupation that literally months ago, before the Freedom Convoy, before all this shenanigan, before the mayhem of the Freedom Convoy, you applauded them. You applauded them. Justin Trudeau tweeted out saying, "Go truckers, go." That they were the ones that were the essential workers during the time of the lockdown. And then they realized that they were in a trance, that this compliance, the mandates are absolutely fictitious, and hurting the industry, that's when they called to step up. And then that's when Justin Trudeau, the CBC, all the health officials, they all freaked out because they realized that Canadians were not going to be all compliant. That's hilarious, though. Issues a clarification. So not an apology, just, oh, we're just going to reassure people that, well, it's not exactly what we said. Or you remember this? Remember this little nugget here? That CBC executives, managers were paid almost $15 million in bonuses. So all the money that the government, that Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau paid out to the CBC, Bell, Rogers, Chorus, all these media outlets that they claim was supposed to protect journalists, that's their reasoning behind it. They say it's going to protect journalism, protect the industry, and protect Canadian media. At the same time, they're not allowing people to post news stories on Facebook. I don't know how that aligns with it, but that's what they claim. The CBC took that money that was supposed to go towards the workers and gave it right to the CEOs. Gave it right to Catherine Tate, I think her name was. That's literally her name. And she was scrutinized by the parliamentary structure. She confessed that she took the money and she bought herself a nice little penthouse for the Paris Olympics. She did that for herself, not for the company, not for the workers, not to the 9-to-5 people that run the CBC, that run the network. None of them, but bought herself a little penthouse so she can watch the Olympics in peace. That's one of the things that she's done. Or how about this? So, remember when they did the leadership debate last year? And the CBC, CTV lied about police response to the leaders debate chaos record show. So, there was the mainstream outlets, the CBC, CTV, Global, all them. But there was also places like Rebel News. And there's Juno News. There was independent outlets that were also present at the leaders debate. And they had, clarification. They had credentials to be there. They had the press passes to be there. And what did the CBC, CTV do? They lied. They lied. They said there were agitators that, oh my God, they're scummy people that walked in here. They didn't have credentials, and police had to show up in high presence and escort them out. These hoodlums, these hooligans. They say they work for a place called Rebel News. I'd never heard of that. I've never heard of Juno News. Turns out a lot of people have. A lot of people have. And I'm not saying that they're the most, excellent source of information. As I've stated numerous times, Ezra Levant is very pro-Zionist, and so was some other people, but that's a different conversation. But here's a little report on this.
CBC and CTV weren't content to just report the facts, and the facts were interesting enough. They positioned themselves as victims. They smeared independents as aggressors, and even invented a police presence to make their storyline stick. The Freedom of Information documents and the Ombudsman's report prove this wasn't a mistake. It's a pattern. With Prime Minister Mark Carney pledging another $150 million to the CBC on top of its $1.4 billion annual subsidy, Canadians should expect more of the same. A state broadcaster and their friends that manufacture narratives, not news. These liars should be made to apologize, but they won't. Instead, they will be rewarded with more of your money to lie to you some more. CBC.
So, yeah, they're just going to continue on lying because they know they're going to get a paycheck. Either way. Either way. So, of course, they're not going to tell you the news. They're not going to tell you information. They're not going to be critical of the federal government. Why bite the hand that feeds you? Why bite the hand that feeds you? Why actually do credible journalism that you as a network are obligated to do for the rest of the country? That's why you're a broadcaster. And the same goes with Bell Media. The same goes with Chorus. The same goes with Rogers. That's why a lot of people are turning away from mainstream media and going to podcasters, because I'm not obligated to lie to you about Mark Carney. I'm not obligated to lie about any political party. I'm doing this on a shoestring budget. No one's paying me $1.4 billion. I could take half of that. You know, they say there's a price tag to everybody. So, you know, maybe half of that if they're willing, but I hardly doubt that. Here's also this. So this is just recently from Canada Proud. Statistics show that a small minority of Canadians actually watch the CBC. Yet, Mark Miller, who's now the Heritage Minister, that's the former immigration minister who failed horribly at securing and stabilizing immigration. Now he's part of the Heritage Foundation here in Canada. That's just absolutely laughable. This guy should be held to contempt and maybe serve prison sentences. But, you know, just another day in Canada. Yet Mark Miller says we need to be giving them, the CBC, $1.4 billion a year to promote social coercion. He actually said that. Social coercion. Why would you use a word like that? Why would you say something that emulates, you know, Soviet-style dictatorships? That sounds like North Korea talk right there. Oh, we need to put more into the state broadcaster to promote social coercion. Not saying, hey, and not make up the lie to say, hey, we got to promote, you know, Canadian media and production and the film industry. He's not saying that. No, it's social coercion. That's what he's saying. So here's what he blurted out in the middle of the parliamentary session. Listen to this.
To wave the flag, to show stories, good and bad, about who we are in this country. Also in the context where that important pillar of democracy, being the media, is under a constantly evolving ecosystem that we are adjusting to make sure that the traditional sources of information are well supported, so that people are getting truthful information, so that they can consume them and judge their politicians or judge society accordingly. That's part of what I meant in the question posed by your colleague about social cohesion. The future of the CBC Radio-Canada is extremely important, both in my role as the Minister of Heritage, Culture and Identity, but also as the Minister responsible for official languages, because of the role that Radio-Canada plays in making sure information gets out into smaller Francophone communities in places principally outside Quebec.
So we got to pay $1.4 billion to a network that lies to you because of small French communities. The Francophone can't find a podcast in French. You're telling me you can't go to YouTube and get a translation? Help me understand that. Help me understand the philosophy behind this. Because we have caught the CBC numerous times. We just saw there Rosemary Barton on a hot mic moment saying it was all lies that she made up and laughed about it. And yet you still give the excuse of, well, we still got to pay them more because of these, you know, low communities in the Francophone territory. And what about the French? What about the French? They can't go online and find French articles, find French independent conversations. Doesn't make sense.
That's key. And we also have, as I mentioned, as the ecosystem and the environment that we are in is evolving, the task of making sure that our kids are being protected from online harms, and that we, as a government, play a role in making sure that those platforms are responsible. So I anticipate that will be.
Of course he goes right to the kids. That's like the go-to now. It's either climate change or the children. I find that's how they excuse themselves of all these horrendous policies. Won't someone think of the children? Will someone think about climate change? That's why, going to the grocery store and feeding your children is costing families over thousands of dollars. Think of the children of climate change. Wow. Can you get more scummy than this? Can you get more scummy than this? And again, this is the former immigration minister who lied numerous times, who lied under oath, who lied on CBC radio, who was caught in lies. He then admitted that he lied, and he just gets a job transfer. In normal societies, in normal democracies, this guy would be serving prison time. This guy would be serving some sort of justice. But no, he gets just a job transfer to continue on the lie. Because we live in fictitious times. We don't live in a democracy. We live in an oligarchy, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have a say in any of this anymore. We don't have a say in Canadian politics. And if we did have a say, I'm pretty sure they would have outlawed it. So here is Nick Leaf saying Mark Carney increased CBC funding by $150 million added to the current Liberal funding of $1.38 billion for a total of $1.4 billion of taxpayer money to subsidize Liberal propaganda. Justin Trudeau said it best, if you want good press, you buy it. That's exactly what's happening here. And Justin Trudeau even admitted that when he gave $500 million out to the biggest broadcasters. He openly stated in a press gallery that we did it so they wouldn't investigate us. Because he knew that he was screwed with all the scandals. We know that about the SNC Lavalin scandal. We know about We Day. We know about all the other, mischievous stuff he's done in his past. They were going to investigate it because now they got a big fat check from him to shut their mouths. So here's the Google AI review. Budget 2025 proposes to provide a $150 million funding increase to CBC Radio Canada for the 2025-26 fiscal year. The total increase, the proposed $150 million, is a planned boost aimed at boosting Canadian content and digital presence, as noted by Friends of Canadian Media and Global News. Prior to this increase, the CBC was operating with a base budget, and in early 2024, it was reported to be around $1.38 billion, note CBC and Radio Canada. But it doesn't go after the people that get the most views. It doesn't go after people like me, who's a Canadian making Canadian content in his Canadian home. But it'll go to the CBC. Because I'm sure the new CEO, after Catherine Tate left, I'm sure she needs a penthouse, right? She needs a nice view of the current Olympics situation. I wonder if that's the case. Because it's sure as hell not going to the camera ops or any of the people that are getting laid off, by the way. That's another scandal. They're giving all this money to the broadcasters, thinking that's going towards, the camera operators, the grips, the audio, the lighting crew, anything like that, the lower end of the spectrum, who are getting laid off. So, make it make sense. What seems to me is that they're bribing these outlets, shut their mouths, so they wouldn't investigate and do proper journalism and expose the horrendousness of our governments, of these institutions, about how corrupted you live in this country. That's my takeaway.